Hi there, it's Stephen here from Athlete Focused, and this is our second block of sports psychology work that we're doing with the players. And last time we spoke about thinking smart. Now we're going to speak in the next two sessions about thinking confident. As you can see, the booklet is just in front of me, and we're just going to work through it. I thought it'd be helpful just to work through it ourselves, just to go through some of the content that the players will be going through. And again, this booklet is designed that you can maybe revisit some of the exercises as you go, especially maybe in leading up to competitions and things. So as you can see, the first thing we want to get the athletes to do is to define self-confidence and just understand where self-confidence comes from, the fact that it can come and go, and hopefully some of that will come out in the definition, but just to ensure that they've got a really healthy understanding of self-confidence, and we'll explore what they think it is. The other thing to think about here is that it is an important psychological concept. It's one of those that many players speak about, and in terms of when they're performing well, they're feeling confident and also thinking confidently. So that's something that we'll also try and promote. Is this is an important concept. So some of the later work that's to come is important in terms of committing some time to do it and practicing it. That all is important because this concept of self-confidence is really linked to performing well and having fun, both in training and competition. So we'll sort of make the hopefully display that and allow players to understand that. We'll also touch on this idea of sort of arrogance very briefly, and ensuring that they have a healthy understanding of confidence, that it's okay at times to be confident of yourself, and they should be confident of themselves. They've got many reasons to be confident based on all the hard work they put in. So it's really important just to understand that difference so they don't feel like they're maybe coming across as arrogant. We'll talk about sources of self-confidence. That yes, it can come from coaches, maybe providing feedback. It can come from parents as well, giving positive feedback as well. But ultimately, we want to build really robust self-confidence in the players. And what I mean by that is when they do make mistakes, which will happen, and when they do have poor performances, which will happen, it's not going to just deplete their self-confidence in a heartbeat. And we want self-confidence to be a bit stickier and a bit more robust, so it hangs around with us through some sort of difficult times. And what we're going to try and do is help players understand that what are the things that they do when they're confident. And we're going to come back to this towards the end of the booklet. But we really want them to understand like how they behave when they are confident. Because one of the things that we're going to try and do is separate our thoughts and feelings from our behaviors throughout all of the booklets, to make sure that they understand that even though they may not be feeling confident, there's still actions that they can take, that they display when they are confident, as difficult as they may be. But we really want to understand what are they like when they're confident and really get clear with that, because that's something we're going to revisit towards the end of the booklet. And again, this is something that you can speak to players about and your children about, in terms of what are you like when you're confident and how can we get to that place where you're doing these things more often. So hopefully that's something that we'll reference towards the end of the booklet. So the first page is very much about understanding confidence and understanding what the players are like when they are confident. The second exercise then is quite a good one, and I think I'll just talk about it in a minute in terms of actually bringing it to life with an actual jar. But sometimes we do think about all the negatives, and certainly we can focus on our mistakes. And this jar, the confidence jar, is really just about understanding all the achievements that they've made, the challenges they've overcome, the things they've learned, and also the skills, the difficult skills that they've actually learned as well. So what I'm going to get the players to do is to rip off strips of paper and stick them in the jar. And hopefully that'll be a nice exercise for them in terms of maybe understanding and getting more self-confidence internally. So not from external sources such as coaches and yourselves, but actually trying to develop that awareness and sense of actually, what, I'm really good at some things and I should, and again, that will develop those feelings of self-confidence. So we're just trying to really increase their awareness through this exercise of all the great things that they've done, because sometimes they can downplay these things, and then that leads to and maybe a decrease in self-confidence. So we're really going to try and big this stuff up, and the way we can do that is through this jar. So the players will rip off strips of paper and stick these things in the jar. What you could do at home with the players is actually rip off strips of paper and actually have a physical jar. And that's something they could take with them and add to over time, just as a helpful reminder, maybe when they're feeling down or they have low self-confidence, just dip into that jar, pull out some of the great things they've done, or even some of the comments that you've said or you've put in or your coaches have put in. And again, that's just a really helpful reminder, something physical that they can bring with them. So we'll do it on paper form, but I do think it's something hopefully you may want to explore in a bit more detail and actually get the jar itself. So this will sort of come to a close in our first session, but the last thing we're going to work on, it's a really difficult skill, so we'll probably look at it at the front end of the second session as well, is visualization and imagery. It's a really powerful tool, a really powerful psychological skill that can and has been shown to enhance self-confidence. But the key to it is purposeful practice. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring it to life and really think about an instance in a match, and that instance is going to be a tennis serve. I will say to the players they can think of other imagery scripts and write them. Again, this booklet can be printed off and they can write other ones, but for the sake of this, we're all going to try and bring the tennis serve to life with regard to visualization and imagery. And what we're going to get them to do is actually write this script, which is sort of a bullet pointed script or a story, and it's going to be their visualization. And it's going to go from the start to the finish of a tennis serve. So we're going to start with obviously getting the ball, bouncing the ball 2 or 3 times, depending on their routine. And we'll just visually go through every single thing that happens. Now, what I want the players to do, and this is going to be very difficult and take practice, is bring in all of their other senses. So it's not just about bouncing the ball, doing this, doing that. It's about feeling the bounce of the ball in your hand and seeing it bounce and hearing it bounce. It's then about noticing and thinking about any thoughts that you might have during your visualization that you would have in real life. And then it's about the feel of the racket in your hand, the feel of the toss of the ball, seeing that ball, hitting that ball, feeling the ball being hit through, and then maybe hearing the positive feedback as you maybe hit an ace, for example. So that's the visualization we're going to go is through a tennis serve, and it's going to be an ace, but we're going to really try and make it as realistic as possible. It's going to be in real time, and we're going to try and bring all those senses into the script. So by the end of this, the hope is that they will have a detailed imagery script. It may be a bit all over the place because we will add stuff in. And what about this sense? Have you got that in? So the first time it may be a bit messy, but that's absolutely okay. We're trying to encourage the players to bring this to life, to visualize that ace with as much detail as possible. And then if they do that over time, that's going to give them great confidence to go out and do that in a match. And that's essentially what the skill is about. Some people talk about sort of dry training. It's almost training without actually training, if you can get this really detailed imagery. And we're going to make sure it takes place in real time. It's not going to be sped up. It's not going to be slowed down. And what we're then going to do, once they've got this detailed script towards the end of this first session, is actually go out on the court and do it. Actually go out in the court and practice this, go through it, and we'll do that in pairs, and they can speak to each other about how they did, and they can rate each other to say, oh, well, that was a bit quicker this time, or that was a bit quicker, or did you do this, or you just so we're going to get them to do all that and then actually hit some balls as well, and just see if they can start to join those dots up and think, yeah, this is a skill that actually I think could help me. And that's all we really want to get to, and we'll hone the skill over time. But for now, it's about understanding the imagery itself and what it entails, and then trying to bring it to life in a bit of practice. So we will get hitting some balls at the end of the first session, practicing this imagery, then going to serve, practice imagery, then hitting a serve, and seeing ideally if we could map that imagery and actually get a serve that turns out exactly like that. And that's really the aim. So by the end of the first session, we've covered a number of things, including self-confidence, what it is, and we've also looked at the skill of imagery, along with the confidence jar exercise. So we've built that robust confidence up. We're trying to develop that in them, and we're giving them a strategy in terms of visualization that can maintain that confidence with respect to the skill of a tennis serve, but they can choose other ones as we go. Probably to open up the second session, we will probably look back to imagery and maybe start on court and practice that, just so we've got that really clear, because it's a very difficult skill, so it may take a bit of time just to develop that. And then we'll look at recovering after a poor performance, and we'll talk about an approach and a process that the players could go through. I'm conscious that everyone will have their own little approach and want to rubber stamp that with their own individual preferences. So hopefully this approach will give them a bit of space to do that. But the essence of the approach is the same, and it's going to be about this RAC approach, and what that stands for is recognize, and that's firstly about recognizing after a mistake or a poor performance. Our thoughts and feelings, because those thoughts and feelings, if we buy into them, if we let them fester, and if we let them snowball, can then start to impact our performance and our confidence as a result. So we will discuss as a group how we're going to recognize. I'm going to steer them, as you can probably see here from the speech bubble, into taking a couple of deep breaths and thinking about that, actually spending couple of seconds going, what am I thinking and feeling after that? I'm disappointed, I'm angry, I'm upset, whatever thoughts or feelings may come up. And we're going to try and encourage them to recognize that. And for me, that's just taking the breath to ground them back in the present moment, and then understand, what am I thinking and feeling? What am I experiencing just now? That's really important, because we can't then move to the next step without having that first step in place. And the next step in the RAC approach is A for accept. It's not accepting poor performance, so I want to get that across. It's not like it's, we're just, oh, well, that's just how it is. It's accepting that at times we will have a poor performance, and it's accepting that at times we'll have some of these difficult thoughts and feelings emerge. And, that I'm not good enough, or I'm no good at this, I'm never going to make it, or whatever those difficult thoughts and feelings could be, we're going to accept that at times they're just going to come up. And it's a bit of an uncomfortable exercise, this one, but we're going to get the players to imagine a time when they have made a really bad mistake or a poor performance, and get them to finish the sentences below. And in this sense, it's I am. So we'll get them to go back to that moment and then finish the sentence. I am no good at tennis. I am a failure. I am terrible. And then we're going to see as well their judgments about what other people think as well. Other people see me as this. Other people see me as this. Through doing that, we're trying to, again, get them to recognize their thoughts and feelings a bit more, and to accept them. We've got to understand them first, and then we can begin this process of acceptance. So by doing that and recognizing them a bit more, we'll talk through how to maybe accept them. And I will, again, steer some of the players to understanding that thoughts and feelings don't have to impact our behavior. Yes, they make things difficult. So it's very difficult to play tennis, top tennis, when you're thinking about, I'm a failure, but we can actually let that go. It's just a thought. It's just something that's popped into your head. And can we actually develop this ability to accept and just let go of that thought? And we'll do hopefully a little fun exercise with a few tennis balls where we'll hit those thoughts away, those difficult thoughts, we'll smash them away. And we can actually understand that it's okay to let go of them. And that's the process. But again, I'm conscious that they may come up with their own ways of accepting, you know what, that wasn't great. I'm feeling a bit down about that, but I can accept that. And then from that place, we can move forward. And that really brings me to the C element, which is commit. So we're going to get them to reflect or recognize on how they're thinking and feeling in that moment, so it doesn't spiral. I notice that I'm really upset, I'm really frustrated. Okay, well, I can accept that frustration through whether it be breathing, whether it be through something they've come up with, and that I can get to the place where, okay, I can accept that. I just got to accept that that's gone, that's past, and this is how I'm feeling. But now what I can do is actually commit to something else. I don't have to buy in, pay attention to these difficult thoughts. I can actually commit time, attention, and effort into something more beneficial, rather than spiraling and just with those thoughts and feelings and not moving through the process. So we get to recognize, then we can accept, and once we accept, then we can commit ourselves to something more helpful in terms of our attention, our effort, and our time. So in that, through that process, that can build that robust self-confidence, which in the outset looks like dealing with mistakes well, and this is the internal sort of process that they may go through. And again, I'm hopeful that the players bring their individual responses to this and come up with their own RAC approach. And it's just a very straightforward approach that they can summarize through these boxes. And each of these boxes then almost provides a formula for, after they've made a mistake, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. So you can see on my serve, I will commit to doing this, and on my opponent's serve. So it prepares them for both aspects of the mistake, both on their own and their opponent's serve. And those are two very simple actions that they can take to get themselves back into that moment, back into the present, and trying to play at their top of their game. So again, that's probably the most formal, along with the imagery, that process, and almost post-mistake routine, are the two sort of formal processes that we're really going to encourage the students and the players, to take up. And again, it's up to them. They may prefer one than the other, but we're giving them a choice here. They may do both, but it's certainly about having something there that can continue to build this robust sense of self-confidence, so that it doesn't just desert us after a mistake. The very last thing is something I think, with regard to yourselves, that you can really get involved in, and that's something that's self-reflection. I think it's a really important tool. We can expand this into sort of journaling, where they keep a diary each week about their thoughts and their feelings and how they've done and what they've learned. But in the outset, or in the first instance, it's about just starting very slowly with this stuff, not jumping into a big monumental change. And it's very straightforward. This is a sheet that can be printed off, or you can ask questions like this after the end of a week on a Friday or a Saturday or Sunday. It's just, informally getting them to self-reflect, because that will help with robust self-confidence, reflecting on the things that you've done well and the things that you need to work on. So you can see here, just write 2 things that went well in tennis sessions this week, and sometimes they'll find that difficult. And again, it's developing that awareness that there are stuff that you've done really well, but it's having that awareness to actually bring that out and think, oh, actually, I have done that really well. And that, again, can boost self-confidence. So it's just trying to develop this awareness through questioning and seeing how that goes. So again, write 2 things that went well. We'll encourage them. There are definitely 2 things that have gone well this week, no matter how big, no matter how small, and we'll get them to reflect on that. And we'll also then acknowledge that there's probably things that they want to improve on. And the key thing here is how they will do that. And we spoke about goal setting and thinking smart. So it's a little bit linked to that, but in terms of giving them a simple action. So I want to improve my serve. Okay, how will you do that? I'll ask a coach about how to do that, or maybe they have had a coaching point about their serve and they're going to do that. They're going to stick to that and execute that coaching point every time. Just very, very simple actions. But again, an activity like this towards the end of the week will really help with that robust self-confidence in terms of them becoming aware of things that they're good at, more aware, and also understanding that there is a path to getting better. And again, that helps with building this self-confidence. So there's a lot in the booklet, so I will acknowledge that, but it's just trying to give them an essence. And you may find that for example, they really engage with the imagery. I just run with that. Don't worry about the kind of RAC approach. You might find that they actually really like this approach, this kind of step-by-step approach after a mistake, but they don't really fancy the imagery. Well, that's fine, but it's just trying to have some strategies to keep this robust sense of self-confidence and keeping it high, so that again, it doesn't leave us after one per performance in a tournament. So that's really the aim of these next couple of weeks. Hopefully you may even ask for feedback from the players to see how they've got on in some of the sessions. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I'll make this available to you, and again, feel free to print it off and work through at any point, whether it be in a month or 2 time, and again, just cherry pick the sections that you feel are most helpful potentially, or the sections that the player feels will most help them. So I hope that's been a short whistle-stop tour of this booklet. Hopefully you found it useful, and we'll be in the next session will come out in the next couple of weeks as well. So thanks very much.